Marape withdraws nomination as alternative Prime Minister. Progress on establishment of ICAC. And Edene Gebbie one step closer to the NRL.
This is the National MTV News with Marape.
A very good evening. Thank you for joining us. This is Monday's news. Attorney General Alfred Manasseh will be pushing for the establishment of the Independent Commission Against Corruption. The draft organic law for the establishment of the commission is expected to be submitted to the National Executive Council once the function and powers of ICAC are clearly stated. The Attorney General says the commission will not clash with existing commissions like the Ombudsman Commission and the National Fraud Squad.
Attorney General Alfred Manasseh making the announcement for the setup of the Independent Commission Against Corruption, stating it was consistent with the recent direction from the Prime Minister Peter O'Neill.
The Prime Minister has already given instructions for the interim office of ICAC to be brought under my department and ministry, and consistent with that direction, I have advised the department's legal team dealing with ICAC to fast-track the organic law on ICAC, to establish the ICAC office.
The draft organic law allows for the establishment of ICAC. Although Manasseh is pushing for the setup of the office, the Attorney General did admit that the technical legal team will still need to iron out the functions and powers.
The draft organic law that is being now put to its final phase will set out the powers and functions, the appointment of the commissioners, the staff, the relationship between the various agencies of state like the Ombudsman Commission, Public Prosecutor's Office, and the Royal Public Guinea Constabulary, and to ensure that there is proper accountability within itself as well. Both the constitutional amendments and the draft organic law have gone through an extensive consultation process, and views of all have been received, both domestically and internationally.
ICAC's function and powers may clash with the Ombudsman Commission. Manasseh says ICAC will be given prosecution powers, unlike the OC.
In this instance, what we're doing is, because of that deficiency in the law, because the Ombudsman Commission cannot then investigate criminal conduct, their standard is a bit high but a bit lower than a criminal standard in terms of how people and leaders should conduct themselves. And so the ICAC is established to ensure that such offences as official corruption, misappropriation, all of those things committed by leaders plus public servants.
And if investigations have criminal implication, ICAC may give the case over to the police.
Because some crimes may eventually find that it won't be crime under ICAC. And so it will then be sent back to the police to continue those investigations. And sometimes police will do some investigation and then they find that it is a matter that is under the jurisdiction of ICAC. So they will then be referred to ICAC to be dealt with. So those interactions need to be ironed out properly so that we don't become territorial. We just make sure that all synchronized to serve the people of this country.
Adelaide Sirks, Kari National, MTV News.
Justice equals enforcement plus reporting. This is the theme for the 2019 Sir Anthony Siaguru Walk Against Corruption. In recent months, the country has seen a lot of political changes that have shaken the foundations of the country's democracy. Citizens need to be reassured that the basic laws preserved in our constitution are upheld and that every citizen is also aware of their right to quality justice and responsibilities as citizens.
Transparency International PNG has officially launched their 13th annual Sir Anthony Siaguru Walk Against Corruption, which will take place on the 9th of June. Through its theme, TIPNG wants to draw people's attention to how corruption affects the quality and accessibility of justice.
Ensuring justice is everyone's responsibility. That's an interesting concept. I don't know whether anyone's ever sat, say, in a village community when you hear rumours on the platform of who was stealing whose betel nut or who was in whose garden, but you don't see anybody actually volunteering to do anything about bringing about change.
At the same time, the walk against corruption also aims to show national unity in the laws and institutions that we have in the country, institutions that are supposed to ensure justice.
For us as the sector, we consider justice to mean peace. Peace in our communities, peace in our villages. When there is peace, then there will be law and order.
We have good laws, but just lying idle. But human beings will be able to push and force these laws out.
That the criminal justice system, national service at the end of the track. So we only take care of those who come into our custody who are found to be offending or the offenders. But we have a role to play in this aspect as well.
The Sir Anthony Siaguru Walk is TIPNG's major fundraising event. It aims to create greater awareness about corruption and provide citizens with an opportunity to peacefully express their opposition to corruption.
And TIPNG uses this fundraising activity to continue to remind citizens and organisations that corruption needs all of us to be courageous enough to stop it.
Funds raised from past walks have allowed for the development of civic education materials for use in schools. Lillian Sopera Kinea, National, MTV News.
Whilst acknowledging the support of various organizations and individuals, TIPNG is also calling on all law and justice sector agencies and other organizations to register teams to participate in the walk. So far, 22 corporate teams, 1 civil society organization, 3 family teams and 28 schools have registered. Registration fees for the walk are corporate organizations 2,000 kina for a team of 12, civil society organizations 200 kina for a team of 10, school teams 200 kina for a team of 10 students and 2 teachers, and family teams 100 kina for a team of 10 people. The Waigani National Court will deliver its verdict for the Simbu Regional recount on Friday, the 28th of May. However, petitioner and former Governor Noah Cool filed another motion claiming missing votes in the recount process. While the court-directed recount is over, the court will hear Cool's motion and make a final judgment. Sitting Governor Michael Dua says services have been halted in the last 2 years as a result of this court process.
It has been nearly 2 years since the Simbu Regional seat has been in court following a petition filed by former Governor Noah Cool. Following a court-directed recount, the final verdict was to be announced last Friday. However, plaintiff and former Governor Noah Cool has filed another motion.
And after the determination of this application by the petitioner, whatever depends on that, the court will make a declaration of the results of the recount in Goroka.
According to the defendant's lawyers, that will also be considered by the court before a final decision. For the sitting governor, the recount process was done according to law. Governor Dua is concerned that more delays would see services in the province remain stagnant for 2 years.
Imiran lot seria imiran gotia imisim got kaya good stuff. All the place all magrab stuff ya. All no give me chance lo misinda na mi mo no province.
Governor Dua is urging public servants and people of Simbu to remain calm and allow the court process to take its course. While expressing concerns of a missing political head, Dua says election petitions must have value backed by real evidence.
Mulating all ba mo sablan declaration na good respond ba kami no ka all put na plus submission kami inside. Submission way no ka base lang yan.
The Waigani National Court is set to make a final decision on this Friday for the Simbu Regional seat.
Imi busy long 6 district long province. Yes. All people all bagarabe.
True.
This is something that bring me come long plap where service delivery long province and bagarab so I think we must stop some plap.
Jacob Pava Jr. National MTV News.
Here with National MTV News, we'll have more of the day's top stories when we return. Stay tuned. Welcome back to National MTV News. Social media has gone into a frenzy over a post by member for Medang, Brian Kramer, questioning the citizenship of Prime Minister Peter O'Neill. Today, the Attorney General came out to condemn the actions of Mr. Kramer and announced that he would be writing to the Immigration Minister to have the citizenship of all 111 MPs checked. The Attorney General also says the Prime Minister has told him that he is Papua New Guinean and does not hold dual citizenship.
Fake news and misleading is what the Attorney General had to say about the recent Facebook post by Medang MP Brian Kramer, questioning if Prime Minister Peter O'Neill has dual citizenship.
I'd like to state that I condemn outright such online behavior of the Member of Parliament, and more particularly the Member for Medang, who is spreading such fake news that are intentionally designed to mislead members of the public. Just a few days ago, as I've said earlier, it made a comment and claims in relation to Prime Minister's citizenship, which were made without any substance or proof.
The Prime Minister has refuted claims that he holds a dual citizenship from Australia. The Attorney General backing the Prime Minister's statement.
Prime Minister does not have dual citizenship. I don't carry his citizenship certificate around, so I have mine by birth. Well, obviously, the Immigration Minister will and the Immigration Authority will ask all members of Parliament. They will do the investigation because those applications for dual citizenship are processed through that department and through that agency. So, obviously, if the Prime Minister has applied for it, the records will be there. If anyone else, a member of Parliament, has applied, they will all be there.
The Attorney General also took a shot at the Medang MP before announcing his intentions to see all 111 MP citizenships checked.
It's at our time when there are also questions being raised about the member's own citizenship and satisfaction of the criteria of holding citizenship in the country when he was first granted a passport in his youth. This matter and other matters, both relating to Member for Medang as well as the issues relating to the Prime Minister, will be dealt through the proper legal and administrative channels by the relevant agencies.
The member for Medang, in a recent interview with MTV, was questioned on his social media posts and how members of Parliament were responding to them with constant attacks on the floor of Parliament. Kramer says none of the members he writes about will ever take him to court, as it is facts and the members would end up exposing themselves.
Information that is false and misleading, you can be held accountable. When mainstream media publish wrong news, they can be held accountable. And they are at liberty to take me to court on issues they say that are fake. Funny it is that they never do. And so I can stand behind my post and I've got evidence to prove it. So obviously I cannot afford to get a single thing wrong because it creates doubt in my readership. So correct information is extremely important to me because I can stand behind it and I can back it up.
Adelaide Sirokskari, National MTV News.
To our top story now, and the alternate government has announced the withdrawal of the motion of vote of no confidence. Opposition leader Patrick Pruach says this decision was concluded among leaders of different factions in the alternate camp. Pruach says despite this, the team is prepared to keep the government on its toes. Taripori MP James Marape has also stepped down as the alternate Prime Minister nominee.
I was bestowed the greatest privilege and honor to be given the title as the alternate Prime Minister. But it is now 1 week past the event on the 7th of May. There are many Prime Ministerial candidates also in the government side, as well as on our side. And so by greater consensus amongst every one of us, I am truly privileged to appreciate the fact that this nomination has now been withdrawn. We're placing it on the table, and for any leaders on this side, already confirmed 49 of us are still in the House or on our side. But on the other side, anyone, whether they feel they leading political parties on the other side or members of PNC who can walk across with us, who share common grounds with us, and I know there are many members of Parliament who share common conviction, common belief, common value system as those of us on this side.
Moving on, and Western Highlands Province is reported to have the highest number of rape and sexual assault cases since 2015. Mount Hagen General Hospital's Well Women's Clinic recently released this report. It was presented during a men's forum in Mount Hagen, hosted by FHI 360, to address gender-based violence in the province.
Well Women's Clinic is a family support and cervical cancer testing center for Mount Hagen General Hospital. The reports reveal that in year 2015, 223 women and girls came to them for help after they were sexually assaulted. The figure dropped to 200 new cases in 2016 and 230 in 2017.
Half like the rate is still going like this, and the physical assault is going down. Something is telling us that something is wrong there.
What's even more disturbing is that the data shows that many children in Western Highlands Province are victims of rape and sexual assault cases every year. Most victims are of ages 4 to 18 years old. Sister Dolin Kiaka from the Well Women's Clinic has called on the government to stop compensation payments which communities opt for instead of jail time. She said compensation payments have discouraged survivors from visiting available services to help themselves.
Please follow lines the policy staff. You can look at things and you can also staff no isolation and you can staff no reply. We work together and reply. Discouraging is a compensation.
As way forward, the Mount Hagen Community Policing Officer in charge, Susan Mondiai, says community policing should be the focus of the Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary to address law and order at the community level.
Community policing is mainly to be with the community, the public relation of the police force with the community.
Mount Hagen Senior Resident Magistrate Betty Jacobs says there is need for more proactive measures and tougher penalties to be imposed on rape charges. Jacobs said physical assault cases have reduced in Western Highlands Province due to tougher penalties to the abusers.
Contributing factor where rape and arrest because community only transaction compensation and squad free.
FHI 360 have gathered churches, NGOs, authorities and community leaders in the province to discuss ways to address the high number of gender-based violence in the province and ways to minimize it. Vasinata Yama, National EMTV News, Mount Hagen.
People with disabilities are a vulnerable group of people who silently go through all forms of abuse every day. In another report presented by the Kalan Services Office in Mount Hagen, a lot of females living with disabilities have been raped or sexually assaulted but are silenced because of their disability. Kalan Service Mount Hagen recommended for tougher and working laws to safeguard vulnerable people against all forms of violence.
Only feeling was no that in security, all the big places long. So plant maybe only go through, but only silently carrying was maybe.
Land title eligibility, water and electricity supply were high on the agenda at the 2nd District Development Authority meeting for Mosby Northeast. The meeting, held at Makana Settlement, saw local member John Kaupa reiterating a commitment to addressing these issues within this electorate.
In the Mosby Northeast electorate, settlements outweigh suburbs. Many of the issues raised during the DDA meeting are common issues faced across the many settlements that have popped up in the electorate over the years. So, it's no surprise that the local member and Minister for Housing and Urbanization, John Kaupa, has stated that with all DDA meetings are to be held in settlements in the electorate to allow the people to also air their concerns.
As you can see, this is our second meeting for 2019, and here is Makana Vocational Center used to be.
Agendas raised in the meeting were on land title issues, water and electricity problems, and the increased rate of law and order challenges. Kaupa says with Makana settlement being a state land owned by the Education Department, plans to purchasing the land are already underway so that other important services such as health and education can also be delivered to lifting the standards of settlement into what's formerly known as suburbs.
Title is a very important part of all the settlements. So like other places like Potion up at 9 Mile, we already got a title, and the other 4 potions down there at Rauna Quarry, we got a titles, and 8 Mile Potion 350, 80, and 3 potions there, total of more than 100 hectares.
Upgrading of settlements and infrastructure is one area Kaupa is working on with support from NCD Governor and Prime Minister Peter O'Neill.
But like this settlement, Makana, you see, people are in need of water, power, road access, and it's close to the city, 10 or 20 minutes drive here. But still people need to be given the rightful service that they deserve.
He says service delivery to communities within the electorate will continue to be rolled out as part of its plans to transform settlements into suburbs.
So we got a lot of support from O'Neill and Charles government and our governor, and as an elected member for Mosby Northeast, with our electorate, 7 Mile Airport, Parliament, and a lot of institutions. So I think all these 3 give me full support so that you can see Jackson Airport and a lot of things.
Godwin Eki, National MTV News.
An intensive training on SME and good governance is being held at a settlement in the Mosby South electorate, facilitated by Ecotourism Consultancy Services Organization. The training is aimed at improving the performance of SMEs in and around Gorobe. Michelle Stephen with the details.
Ecotourism Consultancy Services, an organization that advocates good governance in SMEs, is working towards the promotion and education of the new SME policy. Ecotourism Consultancy Services and Program Director Francis Stevens says this program is the first of its kind in Port Moresby. Components of the program include arts and craft, agriculture, fisheries and small-scale mining.
We have these people who want to participate fully in terms of making business with ordinary Papua New Guineans. But the Papua New Guineans themselves, they don't know what's governance and what's business. So let's give a tap at the back of them and tell them, you move that way. That's why we're creating this venue of training, them to know what's governance and SME programs, so they can participate fully.
Kingston Wombai, a rural development facilitator from the Okok Highway Landowners Association in Chimbu, says as a rural development facilitator who's been in the job of building capacity, especially of disadvantaged communities in Papua New Guinea, he would like to see communities participate in programs that will help improve their standards of living.
We would like to see that, Papua New Guinea really achieves its target in the Vision 2050 for Papua New Guinea to be a middle income earner by 2030 and for Papua New Guineans to be happy and wealthy.
In the last 4 years, the organization has been to places in the Momaisi region and plan to extend these programs but need financial support from the government. These programs specifically target mothers, youths and fathers. Anyone can participate in these programs to help develop some life skills that will help support them in the future.
Most of the people that we will be training, some of them are ex-convicts. They come out from the jails, so some of them are wandering, but we'll make sure that they have a space in life.
Mr. Wombai shares the same sentiments, saying if youths are taught basic skills like this, then maybe law and order problems would decline slowly.
The Okok Highlands Highway are known for the attempts at doing false claims and blocking roads and doing all this because they need to be empowered through such programs like this so that they can suffice for themselves.
The training conducted by the Ecotourism Consultancy Services, organized in partnership with the people of Gorobe Settlement, are a step to the right direction in meeting the vision for Vision 2050. Michelle Stephen, National MTV News.
Here with Monday's news, we go for another break. When we come back, we take a look at stories making headlines overseas. Welcome back to National EMTV News. Turning overseas now, in the slums of Venezuela, a militia group is working to keep the country's embattled president in office. The colectivos, as they are known, have essentially become the private army of Nicolas Maduro. As CNN reports, violence and intimidation are their trademarks.
They wear hoods and carry guns. Mysterious figures who seem to be able to attack anti-government protesters in Venezuela with impunity. Witnesses to these shootings say they are the work of colectivos, shadowy paramilitary forces that support the government of embattled President Nicolas Maduro at any cost. In the areas they control, the colectivos operate openly. To learn more about their role in Venezuela's political violence, we go to one of Caracas's sprawling slums and to a radio station controlled by the colectivos that they use to air pro-government propaganda. Colectivo leader Naudi Mendez agrees to an interview, but only if we do it live on air. Mendez says he's been shot 5 times in confrontations and will take up arms if the United States tries to intervene militarily in Venezuela. The revolution is going forward, he tells me, and if these people try to step onto Venezuelan soil, what there will be here is a lot of lead for them. I'm not afraid of the gringos. But according to Venezuela's opposition, the colectivos' main target these days is not foreign adversaries, but their political rivals inside Venezuela. Opposition member Julio Cesar Reyes says on 3 occasions, colectivos have come to his house to intimidate him. They come without uniforms, he told me, carrying weapons of war. Their faces are covered and they break down your door. They aimed a gun at me in front of my kids. Maduro has called on the colectivos to defend his socialist revolution and says they are patriots. U.S. officials call them domestic terrorists. The group started doing social work in Venezuela's poorest slums decades ago. Then Hugo Chavez took power and envisioned a new role for the colectivos. Hugo Chavez saw that the colectivos could be transformed into a private army. Loyal to him, he gave them food, weapons, and free reign. In many of Caracas's most dangerous neighborhoods, they are the only law. The colectivos are Maduro's most loyal enforcers, says Naudi Mendez. But when asked if things are better after 20 years of socialist revolution, even he concedes that support for the revolution is fading. The war has been tough, he says. They attacked the poor people through their stomachs. They made our food disappear, and people got mad, and everyone says it's Maduro's fault. But it's not Maduro's fault. It's the United States' fault. With the conflict brewing, the colectivos say they have thousands of foot soldiers ready to fight to the end.
To the U.S., and the acting chief of Homeland Security now says the administration won't send migrants to the states of Florida or any sanctuary cities. His comments come after officials in Florida blasted a possible plan to send migrants to the states. All this as U.S. border control faces a record influx of migrants along the nation's border with Mexico.
The pictures of migrants waiting to get processed on the U.S. side of the southern border are difficult to watch. Families sprawled under makeshift tents, children sleeping on the ground covered in mylar blankets. The strain is not just on migrants. It's also on the officers who have apprehended a record-breaking number of migrants, more than 500,000 since October.
I'm a father. I'm a grandfather. Somebody needs to do something about this.
Thursday, officials in Florida's Palm Beach and Broward counties said they were notified that about 1,000 undocumented migrants a month could be sent to the Sunshine State for processing and releasing.
It's not a good plan. We think it's a danger to this community, and it's going to put a real strain on what the resources are.
I personally would suggest that we bring these people over to his hotel and ask the president to open his heart and home to these people as well.
Sunday, the acting DHS secretary said the agency had been looking at all options. President Trump told Florida Governor Ron DeSantis that migrants would not be flown to Florida, but Border Patrol agents on the ground say Washington has to do something.
Until Hill, you know, folks in Congress, folks at the White House, folks on Capitol Hill actually put forth an honest effort to address the situation here on the border. It's not just a humanitarian crisis, it's a border security crisis.
Without more resources from our nation's capital, DHS has resorted to other measures, like releasing thousands of undocumented migrants into border communities, flying or driving thousands of others to Laredo or San Diego, and reassigning agents from ports of entry to migrant processing centers. One newly added temporary facility in South Texas alone holds 8,000 migrants on any given day.
We're doing everything we can in our power to ensure that they're safe. We want to let them know that they're safe now.
While agents continue to do their jobs along the border, many are asking if politicians are doing theirs in Washington.
To Britain, and the Duke and Duchess of Sussex have shared new behind-the-scenes photos from their wedding to celebrate their first anniversary. It's been a big year for the newlyweds, who moved into a new house and, of course, welcomed baby Archie. But as ABC reports, it hasn't always been a smooth ride.
Into their marriage, the occasion marked in a very Sussex way, releasing a slideshow of some new behind-the-scenes pictures of their big day, along with the sounds of This Little Light of Mine, the tune the couple chose as their recessional song. The huge level of global interest in this pair never letting up, with Harry and Meghan using their time in the spotlight to shine a light on causes important to them.
There is now, more than ever, a pressing urgency to saving the planet.
Meghan carving out her place in the royal family and lending her voice to the issues that matter most to her.
Feminism is about fairness.
The royal rock stars, however, running into some trouble along the way. Meghan having a very public falling out with her father, Thomas Markle, and the British tabloids running allegations of a rift, first between Meghan and Kate, and then rumours of a row between the brothers, all fuelled by the public announcement that Harry and Meghan would be moving to Windsor and setting up their own household. But of course, the big news from their first year together was the arrival of baby Sussex.
Meghan and myself had a baby boy early this morning, a very healthy boy.
Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor modernising the British monarchy as the first British and American multiracial baby to be born a Windsor. His mother Meghan glowing with pride as she and Harry introduced their little one to the world.
I mean, I have the two best guys in the world, so I'm really happy.
The New Zealand watchdog admits its oversight wasn't good enough around the time of the 2015 Fox Glacier crash that killed 7 people. Big changes have been unveiled today as the Civil Aviation Authority tightens measures 4 years after one of the country's worst chopper crashes.
Crash, the Civil Aviation Authority had just 2 flight operations inspectors in the country. Their task was to assess the safety of 100 helicopter operators. Civil Aviation says it was misled by the operator behind the November 2015 Fox Glacier crash, James Patrick Scott. But it also admits it didn't apply enough scrutiny.
Non-compliance had not always been formally reported as findings. Inspectors were also too trusting and did not verify the information that was being given to them.
At a sentencing in Christchurch on Friday, Scott apologised and the judge ordered a $64,000 fine. Now the Civil Aviation Authority is turning the spotlight on itself.
With the benefit of hindsight, we can say that our oversight of JP Scott should have been better.
New Zealand has 900 helicopters, the biggest fleet per capita in the world. But Civil Aviation had struggled to find skilled inspectors, putting pressure on staff.
They could have had big workloads, and that might have been a factor in the scrutiny that they were providing of the operators.
The 2 flight operations inspectors no longer work with the CAA. It's since hired 8 new inspectors, and they'll undergo extra training and testing.
And this will ensure that when our inspectors conduct their oversight activity, they'll do it properly. For example, they'll know they must dig deep to verify information provided to them.
Despite past shortcomings, the Civil Aviation Authority says it's confident there are no unreliable operators running scenic flights. The Transport Accident Investigation Commission will reveal the cause of the crash on Thursday.
Here with Monday's news, we go for another break. When we come back, some sporting updates in Trukai Sports. Don't go away.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. We begin with Rugby League, and the slide down the ISC ladder continues for the SP PNG Hunters after they suffered their 8th loss yesterday to the Wynnum Manly Seagulls. Wynnum beat the SP Hunters 28 points to 6 in their round 10 clash at the Oil Search National Football Stadium.
Though the SP Hunters started the game on a positive note, scoring a try early in the match, they could not get back in the game after Wynnum ran in 4 tries, leading 20-6 at half-time.
We built pressure on the other side. There was a line drop out, short kick, they took it, they had a penalty, first try scored, that was it. Couldn't get back into the side, so quality team, so we can't do that for all the other clubs.
Coach Michael Marum commended prop Moses Meninga for playing the full 80 minutes. He said though some members of the team tried their best, some just lacked energy in the field and there was little to no leadership from players in key positions.
Some boys tried hard, but some other players just in there to make up the numbers. That's just not accepted at this level. But I can see changes in those key positions as well. So we're not getting the leadership from that group today. So yeah.
Many fans around the country have talked down the team's performance, which Marum says has got into the heads of a few players. But in saying that, Marum added the players need to concentrate on the game and improve.
We forget about everything else and just focus on that football side. So that's what we lack. So we think too much about people outside. So what people are saying, but the players themselves need to get back and just refocus on their game. It's individual players, their performance on and off the field. So yeah, we got a lot of talk going. Will be done all throughout the next few days. Yeah.
After their 8th loss of the season, many changes will be made to the team before the next match this weekend. The SP PNG Hunters will take on the South Logan Magpies at the Oil Search NFS on Sunday at 3 p.m.
Disappointing to see some senior players in there that didn't do well. So what I can say is probably there'll be a few changes next week. So if we have to rebuild this side again, there has to be some new young bloods brought in. So there's some players there already. So we'll see how we go with injury, and then there's a couple of boys that have been cited as well. So.
Elijah Levet, National EMTV Sports.
And following his superb form in the Intra Super Cup, Edene Gebbie is setting his sights on an NRL contract with a 1-year contract with Intra Super Cup team Wynnum Manly Seagulls. He says it's a step closer in achieving his NRL dream.
He scores his first try as a Bronco, and it's a huge play.
Making it into the National Rugby League competition in Australia is the pinnacle of rugby league for any aspiring young talent in Papua New Guinea. For Edene Gebbie, playing for the Wynnum Manly Seagulls in Brisbane is a step closer to achieving that dream.
Mr. Lab, there's plenty of NRL clubs out there watching. So, me at me looking was I'm close to. Yeah, that's one step closer. So me try play strong and I go, yeah.
Edene was in Port Moresby on Saturday to take on his former club, the SP PNG Hunters. The PNG export is chart-topping the QRL website with running meters, something that is catching the eye of the NRL clubs. For Edene's case, it's about being consistent with his strides as he builds up his reputation as a formidable force. New South Wales State of Origin coach Brad Fittler's comments has seen Edene praised for his recent form, and Edene had seen and heard of the Channel 9 comments made by Fittler, but he says that no NRL club has yet approached him.
Me no sabe, but hopefully all man go talk to media, talk Law 9 News, me looking, but as for me, on approaching me yet, yeah.
Keeping a foot just outside of the NRL, he needs to maintain his performance in the Wynnum Manly Seagulls, and his one-year contract could be extended, keeping his NRL dream ever so close.
Suppose me play good, na me make it good maybe, or like me can. Yeah. Now look at talk me will start back, maybe for next year.
One person that keeps encouraging Edene Gebbie to be a consistent player is his mentor and former coach, Michael Marape.
I'm not listening to the mipla. All boys move out Lantas. I'm not listening to the mipla. I'm sa keep in touch with the mipla. Talk him to one sandilo. Make him like just keep on what you are doing. Yeah.
Fidelis Sukina, National EMTV Sports.
Most teams in other rugby league competitions around the country have a different name for the Confederate Zone trial teams. For the Port Moresby Suburban Rugby League, they call it the Suburb of Origin. And yes, they have Blues and Maroons teams. Fidelis Sukina with the details.
The Port Moresby Suburban Rugby League is gearing up for their annual Suburb of Origin concept, similar to the State of Origin concept in the NRL competition in Australia. But for these players, it's not for state, but for their suburbs. The concept started in 2017 as a 3-game series to select their side for the Southern Zone Confederate Trials each year.
This is purposely for us to select players to represent the league in the upcoming Southern Zone Trials selections, which will be conducted by Southern Confederate at the National Football Stadium.
It has been competitive among the 17 teams of the competition, with the players equally excited for the chance to play in the Tri-Series.
So the players are psyched up, they want to represent the league, they want to be selected. The first weekend of June we will be running the first Suburb of Origin game 1.
The competition is into round 5 and already they have secured a naming rights sponsor for the Tri-Series. National telecommunication company Telecom PNG is the major sponsor of the concept that is promised to show some high level of rugby league.
Basically, Telecom has put up the amount of money of 15,000. We are going to put some cash prizes for the players. We will make it more entertaining and interesting for supporters, for the fans, and also for the players. And in a way, we're trying to market the brand of Telecom PNG Limited.
The concept is inclusive of the 17 clubs, with clubs based within the suburbs of Morata, Waigani and Erima forming the Maroons team, while the Blues will be made up of clubs based outside of the 3 suburbs.
Blues coming from the outside suburbs, and Waigani, Erima, Wildlife and Morata, they are going to formulate the Maroons team. We are doing the selections for those 2 teams. We have common selections 2 weekends ago. This will be the 3rd weekend.
With Telecom PNG boosting its sponsorship from 5,000 to 15,000 kina, the teams will be accorded with Telecom Blues and Telecom Maroons gear accordingly.
The first group will be known as Telecom Blues, and the second group will be Telecom Maroons. Previously it was Country Maroons and Country Blues, but Telecom is taking over the naming rights, and they have specifically requested us to call those 2 teams Telecom Blues and Telecom Maroons.
Fidelis Sukina, National EMTV Sports.
And don't go away, we'll have more of Trukai Sports when we return.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. The Port Moresby Squash and Tennis Open today received support from Bank South Pacific through a sponsorship of 10,000 kina. To be held from the 7th to the 10th of June, the event is expecting a total of 160 athletes participating in both disciplines at this year's event, with players flying in from Lae and Mount Hagen and also from North Queensland, Australia. The POM Open is expected to feature local and upcoming PNG representatives who will be travelling to Samoa for the Pacific Games later this year. BSP Sponsorship and Events Coordinator Emilia Minopu presented the sponsorship support on behalf of the bank, reiterating BSP support for both sports. To some sport abroad, and Kiwi Liam Lawson crashed out of motor racing PAU Grand Prix in France today after tipping a risky move on the race ladder. The incident cleared the way for another young driver whose journey to the top of the podium is quite remarkable.
He sees the checkered flag. He wins the 78th running of the Po Grand Prix.
At first glance, 20-year-old Billy Munga's win seemed like any other. Sure, he had to fight from the back of the field to the front, but it's only when he steps onto the podium that it becomes obvious why this is different.
What an absolutely fantastic sight that is to see.
I didn't ever believe that 2 years ago that this would be the case, that I'd be winning races, and I'm just over the moon.
The British driver lost both his legs in a racing accident in 2017 after ploughing into the back of a stationary Formula 4 car at Donington Park. But that wasn't the way he wanted his career to end. After arguing for a rule change, Munga became the first disabled driver to race a single-seater. Mother Nature helped a little with his win at Po. After qualifying 11th, Munga was one of 3 cars to pit on the opening lap to switch to wet tyres.
Me and my engineer, we were fighting with each other over the radio on the green flag lap. I was telling him it's wet, and he was telling me no, we should stay slicks. And eventually I just came in and it was the right call.
With extra traction on the wet track, Munga worked his way up the field from 14th.
Well, there he is. Munga has passed Das and he's up into 5th position.
He'd made it into 3rd when Kiwi driver Liam Lawson did him a favour by attempting to snatch the lead from teammate Julian Hansis.
No, he is having a try. He launches down the inside. The teammates collide.
Munga cruising past to secure his first victory in his modified car. A truly special win for someone who's refused to let adversity slow him down.
And that ends True Kai Sports for this evening. Stay tuned for the weather details for the next 24 hours when we return.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by Money Plus. With you always.
A quick look at the weather for the next 24 hours in the southern region. All the major centres, Port Moresby, Daru, Kerma, Alotau and Popaneta, can expect fine weather with a top of 31 degrees.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by Money Plus. With you always.
And that has been the news, sport and weather for today, Monday the 20th of May. On behalf of the EMTV News team right around the country, pleasant viewing. Good night.